Two of the most important things you should do before you start writing is determine who your audience is, to whom are you writing, and of course, what the purpose of your writing is, why you are writing it. The first thing we're going to explore in the course is audience, to whom you're writing. Why should you tailor your writing to your audience? It's very important for your audience to understand what it is you are writing. So in order to do that, you have to tailor your writing to your specific audience. Different audiences will have different backgrounds, levels of education, knowledge about certain subjects. You need to know how much information your audience has about your topic and at what level they can understand what it is you're saying. This then will allow you to make the decisions of how much explanation to give, at what level to write, as far as how in-depth your analysis might go. These are factors you need to consider when you're thinking about your audience. Now that you know why you tailor your writing to your audience, you're wondering, how do you tailor your writing to your audience? Probably many of you have never really thought about it when you were writing your papers, but it's not as difficult as you might think. We actually tailor our speaking to our audience every day. If you think about it, when you're trying to persuade someone of something, you think about who that person is to whom you're speaking and how to best persuade that person. For example, let's say you wrote a paper for this class and you did not get the grade you want. Okay, let's say you got a really bad grade and you were less than happy because you got the bad grade. So think about how you might explain this to two different audiences. The fact that you got the bad grade and you don't think you deserved it. Think about how you would tell this story and how you might try to persuade your friends to agree with you that you deserved a better grade. Think of the tone you would take when you were speaking to them. Think of the language you would use. What specific words, what vocabulary would you use speaking to your friends about the fact that you deserved a better grade on your paper? Now, assume you're going to come speak to me about your paper because you want me to reevaluate it and possibly regrade it. Would you speak to me the exact same way you spoke to your friends, using the same tone and the same vocabulary? Probably not. Remember, I'm a different audience, so you would most likely be using a less casual tone, probably a little more formal vocabulary, and it's all in order to get what you want. You know who your audience is, and so you tailor the way that you're speaking to get through to that specific audience. We do it all the time without ever even thinking about it. My kids do it. When they're really, really little, they know that if they want something from grandma, they just have to talk all cute and sweet and bat their eyes, because that's their audience. Whereas if they wanted something from me, they were going to have to persuade me with a little more information. And so they know one is an easy sell, the other is not. So we have to tailor how we're presenting our information to get what we want. It's the same thing when you're writing. You're going to consider who your audience is. So it's what sort of information do you give them, because they may or may not know something. And then how do you persuade that audience because of what that audience's interests are, what's important to that audience. These are things that you will learn how to do as you tailor your writing to your audience and you consider who your audience is and what you know about them. When writing, your audience is who will be reading your essay, paper, instructions, whatever it is that you are writing. Now, in the real world, we typically have specific audiences when we write something. Usually we write something for our job, so it might be for coworkers or a client or for our boss. In the academic world, however, oftentimes we don't have a specific audience. Our audience is our teacher or several teachers. Maybe it's for our class. And even though these are specific audiences because it's a person, the teacher, or several people, the class, it's not in a real world scenario of clients or coworkers or a boss or a letter to the editor. Regardless, you still have to consider who that audience is. How much information does your audience know about the topic? What is important to your audience? So how you choose to write to them because of the information you know about them is very important. How do we figure out what we know about our audience? I call these audience factors. These are things we know about our audience. You can think of them as categories. What categories of information could we possibly know? You might also want to think demographics. For example, an audience factor would be age. We could know the age of our audience, or ages if there's a varying range of ages in our audience. So we think about the age of our audience, and then what might be important to that age range, or what information might they have, what knowledge might they have because of their age, and how does that correlate with the information we're putting into our paper. How much information do we have to give them? How in depth do we have to write? How much do we have to take them by the hand and explain things? And what might be important to them at that age? Your audience assignment is to determine audience factors. Figure out what might you know about your audience. Get together a list of possible audience factors. Now, when I do this in class, we usually come up with 11. I have 11 factors that we discuss. I'm only asking you to come up with 8 because sometimes it's hard to come up with all 11 on your own. I even give you the first one, which is age. So actually, you only have to come up with 7 more. So I'm asking you to come up with specific factors that you might know about your audience and why those factors might be important. Then the next question is, if you had a diverse audience, how would you write for them? All of these things I want you to write up on a separate Word document and to attach it to the assignment that is on our course site.